Hello, this is Becky from What Becky Did Last Night, and I've got a very special collaboration for you today. This collaboration is actually with my own young adult teenager now. They are, in my opinion, quite an awesome artist, and this is a line work that they have done for me. This was actually based on their original digital artwork, which you can see here. And today I thought I would share this with you. If you like this art style and you'd like to see this drawing, you'll be able to download it from a link below if you would like to support my amazingly wonderful uh, teenage adult now. So yep, I promised that I would absolutely color this. I haven't done a good alcohol marker coloring in a while. I'll try and keep it beginner friendly in terms of my instruction, but it might be a little bit intermediate. I'm going to do some mixed media stuff. I'm going to do an inkpad background and alcohol markers and maybe put some pencils in there. We'll see how we go. This image I have printed off. I've actually printed 2 to a page on a piece of 9 by 12 Nina Ultra Smooth cardstock. So that's my favorite surface to use alcohol markers on. So I highly recommend, if you're using alcohol markers and you haven't tried that paper out yet and you're new and you might be still looking for your favorite surface to print off any digital images, then that might be the one that you would like. I've got a piece of scrap paper underneath. I know Ohuhu comes with the plastic page protector that you can use for the seepage from the ink below, but I don't get along with that because what I find sometimes happens, depending on the paper, is it sits on the surface of those plastic sheets and then can recontaminate back up or cause some smudging, whereas the paper will absorb. So the paper will absorb any ink that flows all the way through to the other side, and then I'm good. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start with the background. I really liked the brick background that they've done in the background here. I don't have a normal brick template, so I'm going to use this one again, and I'm going to show you with, hopefully these still work. These are my Harmony by Spectrum Noir opaque pigment ink pads. These are a bit like the Distress Oxides. So I've got a light pink and a dark pink, but any of your ink pads will work for this. And the first thing I'm going to do is very carefully, I'm going to try and do a light layer of pink first. And I haven't cut this paper down to size yet so that I have a little bit of wiggle room when I go to trim the page at the end. And I'm looking at what colors are going to be in the shapes going up to the edge. So for example, where I have the dark hair here, I'm going to definitely be able to go over the pink without any pink showing. So I'm not worried about that at all. So I can go right up to my edge there. This is a very soft brush blending tool. They're very nice for doing ink work. I'm going to want to be careful around the hair here because that's going to be white. When I'm doing these kind of techniques with alcohol colorings, I like to get the ink pad stuff in first for the reason that the markers will go over the top easily enough. And I don't really want to be doing it around afterwards, but that's just a process that has worked for me. So can try it both ways if you want. So if you haven't done an inkpad background, you might want to take an image you've done before and add to it after the fact. You could do that as well. As long as it depends on the colors. This is a very light color, so obviously it's going to be less intimidating to the darker ink colors that I'm going to put on top from the pens. But obviously, if this was darker than the ink colors from the pen, that could be an issue. I should say I printed this on my inkjet printer. I've got the Epson Eco Tank, which does do the larger size paper. And inkjets are better for your alcohol markers. But obviously the other way around, if you're doing watercolors, you'll want a laser printer. Okay, so I'm going to line this up carefully. It's not the perfect size, but I'm going to make it work. And that was the pink tulip, and then this is the fuchsia I'm going in with. I'm going to use the same brush because they're the same color family. And I just want to drag it up just a little. Okay, so we're getting a nice subtle background. And to give it that kind of shaded look is I am going in one direction. And I'm just matching the pattern up. Okay. That'll wipe off easily in the sink. All right then, so that's our background taken care of. And now I'm going to do, let's start with this gorgeous character here. And I'm going to start with the eyes. So if you're not familiar with this color chart, this is the Ohuhu Honolulu complete. I forget how many colors it was. It was the whole set you could get in the Western market, the 320 plus the skin tones, plus the pastels, plus the Randall YG100. And I arranged them all in color family order. So I do have a video on this and a link to where you can get a free copy of this chart yourself. And it also included the storage tray order as well, so that this is the color family order, and then basically I have it lined out with in fact, let me just show you. This one I threw in as well. So most of the storage trays, they are 6s or 12s. So and then you can arrange them however. So each row of my storage trays all go in the same order, which is the same order as this, but this just helps finding them in your storage trays a little bit easier. So yeah, please help yourself to that if you find that useful. I'm going to go for the eyes. I've picked out a color blend from here. So again, if you are new to alcohol markers, this is going to demystify a lot of your coloring choices, because I have I know that I wanted the midtone, so pick the midtone first. And I wanted to go for this P2 color here. So now what I need is I need a darker color and a lighter color. And depending on how much contrast you want means how many steps you go up. Now, sometimes some of these colors are too similar in value. They're slightly different undertones or slightly different one way or another. So that might not make sense. But if I jump all the way up to here to R340, which is what I've picked for my dark tone, and I've jumped all the way down here for R10 for my light tone, then I've got, yeah, those are my three shades. Sorry, I should say shade. So I'm going to do my medium, my dark, and my light. And if you can pick out three colors for anything, then you can color and shade anything. So I'm going to start with, to get that kind of dreamy look, I'm going to do the light shade first to get a nice good saturation down on the paper. Yeah. And then I'm going to come in with my dark shade at the top up here. And then into the middle. And then back to the light shade. Small circles to blend it together. And I'm going to go over the whole thing just to blend it out a little bit more. And if in doing that you lose any of the darker shade, you can then, or the saturation, you can then go back in and do a little bit more. But I think I'm liking that at the moment. Okay, so next I'm now gonna do her skin. Or is she furry? I'm not sure. I'll have to check with my expert character creator upstairs. But I think we definitely have a furry one here. And I think these are more skin. So let me pull together a nice skin tone for her and I'll be right back. And again, I've gone for a group that I've already pulled together. I've gone for the E170, the BR1, and the E430. So let me see how that's going to come out. And again, I'm going to start with a layer of the lighter shade over everything first. Okay, and now my darkest shade, which is the E430. So when I'm looking at this, so this kind of style is the one where we have the very kind of flat, tiny little nose. So there isn't as much shading as there would be in a more realistic portrait. So let me show you how I tackle this. So I know that I've got an ear flap here. So this is going to be getting some shadow. And the same over here. So I'm going to come down here and okay, I know that I'm going to have some shadow cast from the hair on this side. And then definitely around the roots of the hair up here. And then likewise underneath like so. So I'm just keeping it nice and small. I normally do really bold shadows. I kind of like a nice dark contrast, but I'm trying to be a little bit more um you know, leaning into this style. So I'm going to go a little bit thicker on the shadow on this area. To match the way the light source seems to be in the reference image here. Under the neck is going to be dark. A little bit underneath the choker. And then we have collarbones. So plop, and plop, and maybe around the neckline of the shirt. And then we're going to do this side of the arm underneath the boob and at the sleeve. And I think I'm going to do a little under the nose here. And I'm going to do around the eyes like so. Oh, this is a lot of fun. I haven't done alcohol markers for a while, so all right, BR1. So just where I want to try and join the two now. To step down into the light color. Now the skin color choice is a little bit different to when we were doing a normal 3-color blend, because actually what's happening here in this style is the, or at least for this area of the skin, is the lighter shade is going to be the most prominent color. And we're just adding a stark shadow to it. Okay. And the smaller the areas go, the less number of steps in color you need. So you don't need to do, you know, like if this space is big enough for 3-color blend, that doesn't mean that this space is big enough for 3-color blend. So obviously the smaller the item you're coloring, the less that matters. And I think, no, we'll leave that. Sometimes I go a little bit of the mid-tone on the outside to make that look 3-dimensional, but I don't think I will for this style. So I'm going to flick out from there, doing some feathering into that, because also if I don't layer this up on top of the entire original layer, there will still be a difference between 2 layers of this marker and the 1 layer. So here we go. I'm going to do it like this. Like so. And down here. And I think as an extra layer, come under the eyes with this one as well. Finishing up the inside of the ears to blend that out. I feel like the face is looking a little patchy from just doing one layer, so I think I'm going to try and blend that out a little bit more. Move it around there. Deciding, yeah, no, I'll just do the whole lot because I think it does look better with a nice flat layer. But these are choices you get to make. Okay. Now, around the eyes, just to give them a little bit more dimension. Oh, okay. So sorry. First thing to mention about the eyes. If you do spill over into the white at all, it's never a problem. I don't worry about that. I always go over on the top with some white highlights afterwards, Posca pen, jelly roll, whatever. And that's when I will clean up. I either use the blender pen. So the blender pen is not for blending colors into colors. The blender pen is for pushing your ink through the back. Oh, sorry. Also, here's a good example. I printed this twice on both sides because I was figuring out my printer settings. And in a cardstock, it doesn't matter. You can print on both sides. It won't show through. It's perfect. Yeah, so just there's a way we can clean up any oopsies using either the blender pen or a white marker. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some gray shadow just to the tops of the irises there. And I pulled out a 3-color gray blend anyway, and I went for CG Roman numeral 200, 04 and 07 as what I'm going to use as my gray blend whenever I come across a gray in here, probably this area. But for now, I'm just going to use, let's see how light that one is. Yeah, so this one is super, super duper light. So I think actually I'm going to take the step in between the two, which is the CG2. So no Roman numerals, just CG2. And I'll pick between the 4 colors for my gray blend. But all I'm going to do is one swoosh, boop, and one swoosh, boop, just to bring in a little bit of shadow to the eye from the top. And now that I'm looking at that and that's had a chance to settle, I think I want to come back in with this R340 and just deepen up the top here. Okay, and I think I'm deciding whether to put some more details into. I wanted to keep it really close to the reference image, but I think I might be a little fancy in places. Okay, here's what you can do. Here's how I like to add a little bit of detail to eyes. Darker color. You can do little dots and just little teeny weeny ones, like so. So again, this will be the difference between, doing something at a beginner and taking it to more of an intermediate level. And then I'm going to go on top of that with the lighter pink, boopity boopity boop, and I'm just like dabbing on those dots to leave them out a little bit. Okay, so GY3 as my green for the teddy bear. And I think I can. No, I'm zoomed in as much as I can. Okay, I'm just going to color this flat. Okay, we got a green teddy bear. Now it's definitely looking a bit more toxic green in the reference. So I probably will just take this G130. Let's just see if it lightens it up. I don't want it to change the color too much, but it might just brighten it if they're blended together. And then we'll check on that one. The alcohol has evaporated. But she's looking cute. Right. So I guess I should finally tackle the hair. I notice I've missed a bit of the the wall, the background, just between here. So I'm just gonna use some of that leftover ink to push a bit of pink in there, and it'll be fine. Okay, the hair. We need a pink blend, which we have already. So this is the same pink from her eyes. We've got that blend. And then I'm going to want a brownie gray. Something more like okay, as an alternative way we can do this. Rather than try and get the colors to match what I want, what I can do is do the whole thing gray and then go over with a deep red or a purple to tint it more of a reddy purple brown. So I think I'll do that because that's a cool technique to show you. It works really well with reds, actually. If you don't know how to get much dimension into into shading something that's red, if you color it in a gray first, then you can just literally wash over with a single red afterwards. Now, there's a good chance I'm going to get confused with the pink braids, so I think I will mark those in first. And it's such tiny details. This is one of those areas that I would actually just keep fairly simple, because the line work is pretty good there. So you've got all the line work to give you the details. And then if I really want to come in with a finer bit of shading, this is probably where I would add pencils on top. If I feel up to it. Depends on how much detail like I say, this is a really good exercise for me, because it's about cutting back on the detail and doing the more what's the word? It's not flat at all. It's still shaded, but the more animation style shading, rather than trying to do anything too clever. But let's try these pink highlights first. And again, this super, super fine, sharp nib gets right into all of those corners of the chevron. This is why I love the Ohuhu markers. I know they've got some new design markers coming out, or they're out already, but I'm good with these. I mean, I'd love to try them. Hi Ohuhu. But if these were the final design marker that I spent the next decade using, I think I'd be very, very happy still. Right, and then we are blacking in, but you know what? I'm gonna put a little streak, ta-da, like that, because I can. And then I'm gonna do the other side. Now, I've never used Copic, so I don't know how amazing they are. Obviously, I've seen people's reviews, the good and the bad. I understand how they were the piece de resistance of pens for so long before the big explosion of coloring and alcohol markers. But I got started with the Spectrum Noir range. And when I had to replace all of those, when they dried out, yeah, there's a video of me trying to revive them, which didn't work out too well. By then, Ohuhu were huge. So I saved up my shiny pennies and I got the whole set, and I did a ton of research. I wanted to make sure that I didn't get any duplicates. And that's why I created the Ohuhu video that I made with the color chart and everything, so that if you're buying it under that system, you'll from their website, you'll be good to go as well. But yeah, I know there's going to be changes, so I would love to keep up to date with those changes as best as I can. Yeah, we'll have to see. All right. So I'm going to do a test The hair is very dark, but I do want it to still have that slight tint. Although, you know, if I'm not going to be drawing in individual strands of hair like I would normally do, um, there is a really nice deep purple here. And then perhaps what I'll do then is, because I promised you I'd show you what that looks like anyway, with a grayscale underpainting, if you like. Let me show you on this bit that's going to be cut off. Now, this is another reason I leave the border of the paper on before trimming down, is because I can try out different color blends on the bottom before I commit. So here is, these are the cool grays again. So this is Roman 207 5 into 2. Okay. So imagine you've colored that in, and I will let the alcohol evaporate a little. And then let's say I wanted it to be this P2 color. This could be a red or any kind of like red family color. But let me give that a second to evaporate a little more. Okay, so P2, this is the future, by the way, by like 1 minute. And then I just do a single brush over, and you can see that you've got a lot of depth in that. So you don't want to work it, you don't want to rub it in, because what that will do is push the gray through to the other side of the paper, and then you'll pretty much just end up with this color neat. But yeah, you have a lot of scope there for you know, grayscale underpainting and this on top. Having said that, I'm now not going to do that for the hair, because I'm liking the look of this R350, which is called dark purple gray. So let's not reinvent the wheel. And I'm gonna see how this comes out. Okay, so I'm liking this so far. And then I am already thinking about how I'm going to bring some shading to all the hair anyway. But let me whiz through and finish all of that. In fact, you know what? I'll save the tape on this by just quickly doing all of the hair in this, so that I can show you what happens next. Ta-da! Okay, so bringing that shading into the hair, I've got two options. Like I say, on this particular one, it is very, very fine details. So I could use a pencil. Now, if I were to show you, like, you know, just to give you the idea of how fine a pencil tip can be on here, I would be looking at doing some shading where the hair folds in, you know, like goes underneath with the braids, or I can do it with a little bit of the brush nib. Also, while I'm here, I see that I have a little bit of coloring outside of the line here. So I'm going to show you how I use a blender pen on that. I would try with the blender pen before I would try with the white marker, but what you, with a white like Posca or Uni Ball or jelly roll. But what you need to make sure is that the surrounding area is dry, because it will flow. If it's still not evaporated, it will flow into there, and then you're going to have all kind of weird patchiness going on. But if I'm really careful, I can try and push it a little bit with a blender. And so I'm just going to take a fine little wash here. like a little bit there, and it should hopefully push it back towards the line again. There's a lot of ways that you can correct with alcohol markers, and that's one of them. So there we go, that's that. So yeah, so back to the hair. I think definitely the pink needs a little bit of shading because it's so bright. So let me go back with the R340. And I think I'm gonna do, I can either do, yeah, I think I'm gonna do the top and the inside of each of those chevrons. So the top and the inside. Top and the inside. Top and the inside. And I'll do that all the way down, and it'll just give it a bit more oomph. That's all of them done. Now for the darker color hair, rather than do that for each of the chevrons, what I can do is I can just go around each of the individual rows of braid. So if I take my darkest gray, which I have out at the moment, which is the CG Roman 209, and I can just go around the outside from the one on top, so like so, and I'll do this for each of the rows. At least I've got some shading going backwards in the hair. And on the inside of these little loops, I mean, this really is quite incredible hair. And just around the ends as well. Just where I feel that some little shadows will help without having to do too much. So this one I'm going to go down the middle a bit. Here behind the neck. I don't know how long they spent drawing this hair or what kind of process they used, but I am impressed, kiddo. Okay, so it's subtle, but it has definitely given it more depth. So again, we're taking a flat coloring. So maybe, you know, a beginner kind of flat coloring, and these little tiny details of where you're just bringing in these little pops of shadows are going to take you up those levels in your coloring journey. All right, so for now at least, we got some tiny little earrings. I'm going to do those in just an easy gray. And by easy gray, here's one I picked up. CG Roman 4, sorry, Roman 2, number 4. And I'm just going to swish on those details, because remember I say if you have tiny details, the smaller they get, the less number of colors you need. But I can add some shine into that with the white highlights that we put in at the end anyway, so that's going to be fine. Okay, I think our first chick is done. So now I'm going to take the pink blend, And I'm going to use the pink blend on our pink details on this character. Ooh, okay, we got some stripes that we can add in ourselves on the hair. I can figure that out. That's easy. This is going to be lighter, so the stars as well, but I'm going to use the light and the mid-tone for the stars and all three for the other pinks. And then I'm going to decide if I'm going to do, I think I might do the pink in the hair, but again, I think I might make it more of the lighter pinks here, little pink tongue. Yeah, let's get all the pinks out. And then we are cooking. It's going to look even more finished. All right, so where's my pink blend? This, and this. Let's start with the heart. Let's get that shape saturated. And I'm going to make it look like it's kind of like poofy. So it's maybe like a quilted heart. And even though that looks really, really stark contrast, oops, and it does, because you know what I just did? I just used that dark purple gray from the hair instead of the original dark for the pink, but it's okay. I'm going to make it work. We're still going to knock it right back with this next color anyway. So it's going to be fine. Did I mention I teach kids? What I find when you're teaching kids, if you're not panicking, they're not panicking. And I teach performing arts and dance and art and things. So I help them find their confidence. And the worst thing for a kid's about to do something with performing is for them to see the grown-ups panicking. I'm just wondering whether to bring an even lighter pink in, because I think I will anyway for the Siamese girl here. And what do we have? We're at the R10 World of Things, which is here. So yeah, let me get the RV030. And then we can knock that back even more. All right. So this was ultra saturated in alcohol markers. So that is going to kind of have a slightly different blend to the really obvious, sudden shadows, but that's fine. I'm going to like that for there. And then I definitely want to make sure I go back to the original color combo that I wanted here. So this time I'm not doing the saturating the with the light tone first. But you'll see how it still comes together anyway. So this is better when you want less subtle blending, because when you do the version where you saturate the shape first, it gives somewhere, well, it kind of like preps the fibers, and if it's not evaporated, it means that you are ready to let the next colors already start bleeding together. Where this way you get a little bit more control over how much you work it first. I'm definitely just going to do this with the 3. There we go. Okay, so we have that going on. I'm still making a decision about whether I want to do the stripes in the hair, which I think I do. I like the pink and the green. I like the opposition, that's quite cool. And this way will work good for hair because you want to be able to see how that's kind of what's the word? You kind of want to see that flicking. You want to see the feathering of the blending in hair rather than a flat, smooth surface. You know, there's a better way to do this. If I do the gray, let's do it like this. I'm going to do the hair in gray and then put the pink on top. So let me go for this. And we'll do the same down here for the green. I'm going to flick a little bit more in. And then let's do the CG2. I'll give that a moment to dry while I work on the rest of the hair, which is going to be darker because we're going to go to almost black. And again, you can't be a brush nib for doing hair flicks. So I'm going to figure out where the parting is. Round about here, I think. Going in with the much darker, the 09. Do 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 do. Okay, flicky flicky, flicky flicky. Okay, we're getting there. Right, I'm gonna start stepping down from this color now. So I'm gonna go back to the 5 to join some of these areas up, bring it into the highlight a little more. At the back where we don't have a lot of which calls it light, that thing, I'm just gonna color it in. Definitely closer to the roots. And then the Roman 204 to fill in a lot of this. And it might still not be as dark as I want, but I can always darken things, right? You can always darken things. And a lot of the times you can add white highlights, obviously, with the mixed media afterwards. But yeah, let's see. Did I bring the 9 into this yet? Or did I start with the 7? Okay. Here we go. Right. This is the 9 in that blend. So again, I can just keep adding more flicks. And this is giving me what I want now. because emo or not, I think they deserve to have some nice shiny hair. And so with the hair, I'm leaving some white in there to get that shine. So the pink. Let's do our pink stripes here. One here. Here. And around the ear here. And let's see how good that gray job, that gray underpainting works on green. Here we'll have some green here. And here. Okay. Well, I don't think it's bad at all. I think that's quite cool. I think I want to put it just a bit more light gray just on this area. So that'll be the CG2, just to flick into that a bit more. But otherwise, I'm liking that. Let me finish off the pinks. So let's do those stars. And well, let me get the cat tongue out of the way. It's going to be the lightest pink. Cute. Okay, RV030. Yeah, okay, I like that. And I'm gonna do I'm gonna do the R10 just to give that a little bit of dimension. And because I'm going to do this almost black around the outside of the stars, I'm not worried about, I'd rather go over the lines of the star and cover it up later to get that nice thin shading. A little bit down the middle of the tongue here. Little blip, 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 blip. And yeah, I think we're good. I'm really trying not to overshade because of the style of what we're doing here. Because I'll make it look worse if I do it authentically with the slightly less shading. It's gonna look better, and I need to just trust that. Now I'm getting all my pens out of order here, so I am trying to keep my family groups sorted. So go like this. Okay, we're gonna go really dark here. So I'm probably just gonna do the CG Roman 209 and the CG 5. Skip out that 7. Let's try. Although, actually, I think I will include the 7 just so that it's less of a jump to keep it darker. But let's see. And again, I can get into such fine details with these brush nibs. Like the level of tiny, tiny space. I'm doing the corners of stars. Okay, let's not overlook that. I'm cutting right into the corners of stars, and it's giving me a sharp corner. It's not giving me a rounded corner. I'm having to make do. Anything beyond that is down to my ability to keep my hand still. But the pen is great. All right, now it's looking same, almost the same gray as the shirt here. So I can even go in, I use it sparingly, but I can now go in with the black. So my advice for the black is always to save it until the end, just to be sure. So now that I've seen how dark I can go with the grays, I'm just gonna bring it in. To darken things up. And what I could do is, if I want to go even darker, is I could then take that original dark gray and bring that out a little further now as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I want this dress to be different to the shirt. And the shirt is like more of a worn gray kind of thing. Is looking already quite cool as it is. And then if I really wanted to bring some highlight back into it, I could do that with color pencils on top, a decent color pencil. More of a wax based one for the opacity if you want to bring highlights in, but easy. Right, so the choker, same deal. I'm going to start with black since I know that's as dark as I want to go. Then I am going to jump to CG Roman 207. Again, the area is so small that I don't need to do smaller increments or do many pens. And then just in the middle of that buckle, I'm going to come back in with some black and do the shadow there. And then we have a light gray silver for the buckle. So I can just do that. And then if I want to come in with white highlights later, I can easily just put a little shine there. I'm now looking at this outfit. It's hard to tell in the reference image, but it does look like we have a shirt and like a collar shirt on top. So I might mix things up a little bit there. Let me take a moment to think. 1 minute. Okay, first, now that this is kind of settled down, I do have too much of a highlight between the colors here, so I'm going to go back in, I think, with one of these earlier grays and just go in between the greens a little bit. We'll go through a couple of those. Just to darken up between the colors. Right. Okay. I'm gonna do the dark. Yeah, I'm gonna do the black shirt underneath. So like the black vest and then the gray, the lighter gray collared shirt, I think. So let's just do that. Let's not bring more colors in or anything like that. I also trust that if I do say so myself, my child has got much better style than me. Okay, if that is a fact, their colors and just artistic style in general has just always been really cool. And that's been true since they were little, and they used to like putting their own outfits together. And I was always really impressed with how they turned out. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to keep it simple. Just two colors. So I'm very grateful that I was provided with the colored reference image, because obviously I could have just gone rogue and come up with my own colors anyway, as can you um, get if you're doing coloring along and you want to grab this image as well. You can do whatever colors you want, but I definitely would have taken a long time to pick some colors. You know what? You know what? I am going to do this slightly different because I just realized I'm going to have the black, the gray, and the gray. I'm going to do the shirt in the green. So we had the three color greens picked out from earlier. Let me show you how I'll do that. I'm just going to go line that with the dark green first. Which was the G390. I'm going to come in with GY3. And a little bit of G130 right here on this one bit that's going to catch a bit of light. Oh, and down here. Okay. That works for me. Now the sleeve I'll finish. And I'm going to go back to being quite black with that. Watch out for the thumb. I don't want to accidentally color the thumb. Okay. We are getting somewhere with this. We need to get some eyes and things in so that we can move on. I think I'm going to do a brown from what I have out already. So let me find. This was the R350. So this is the dark purple gray, but it's going to look cool. So we're going to do it. This is the E430 over there. And the BR1, which looks quite dark. And if I want to try and lighten that even more, let me go in with the E170. Where does that sit in? I can push some of that through. To try and lighten that up a bit more. Another thing I can do is take my black and just go over my printer's black to darken those pupils even more. While I'm here with the black, I see that these pupils need to be popped in. And I'm going to take it from the black into that darkest gray just to give it a bit of subtle dimension. And then I will, let's go for the CG5. I will be adding some white highlight to all the eyes at the end anyway. So they will come to life a little more. I think we have a gray nose here. And it's going to be darker than the fur that's around it. So let me boop, boop, boop. There we go. I'm going to do my face. I'm going to do this. Gotta figure out the beads. Okay, let me do a little shading on the white fur. And I'm going to take for that the CG2. All I'm going to do is just put in some cast shadows from the objects that are around it. Like so. And then that will hide where I had some of the inking coming over. Just around there, like so. And here's how you can use your blender when you're blending. Almost. This is actually the CG Roman numeral 200. This is the super light gray, but I will use that as one more step. But then I'll show you using the blender pen to soften the edges of the gray into the white. There you are. Just like that. Okay. And so now the same idea with her face. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go from a darker gray and it looks like a candle. Mm. Well, hold on. Let me put in some more shadow just around here and under the hair. Ooh, the ear is kind of pink, but what I can do, I'm gonna do some little shading under here, and under here. For the ear, I'm gonna do that first, like so, and then take the R10 maybe. Let me just double check that that's not too bright. Where are you? R10 is there. No, that's too bright. Um, RV030. Yeah, let's go back with that. And we will color her whole inside of the ear. I mean, honestly, I probably did too much of a darker gray, ideally, but I could take this really pale gray and try and push it back just a bit, like so. Hopefully that sorts it out. All right, okay. Finally, here. I've been threatening to do this bit for a while, so let's take a look. I think the darkest I want to go is probably the Roman 207. And then I'm going to step down everything from there. So the Roman 207. Now I do hear that they're changing the numbering system for the new markers, however they're doing them when they come out. Because let's be honest, one of the reasons I did the video and arranged them like this was because the numbering system did seem kind of nonsense. Right now, I gotta decide how I'm gonna do the shading here. I think, do I just go dark in the middle and get lighter? I think so, but I can also have some shading within there. Like I can have shading around her nose a little darker. Then step down to here. Then I'm gonna go down to this one. Looks like we're gonna go up to the eyebrows. So from here, I have to go to the CG2. This is adorable, by the way, because we have rescued a Siamese Tonkinese looking cat, which called Willow, and she does look a lot like this character here. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit more flicking because it is fur. So a little bit flick, 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 flick. So I should ask if this is actually Willow. Yeah. Then I have my lightest gray for a bit more flick, 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 flick. More flick, 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 flick. Oh, she's so cute. Can't wait to get the eyes finished so that she has a bit more color to her. And then she's going to look really cool. It's a little bit redundant being this close to white anyway using the blender, but I think it works. I think though I want to get rid of that harsh shadow that I put down on the chin. So I'll just knock it back with this lightest gray. And it should be cool. Now look, this is why I use paper behind the image instead of the plastic protector sheet, because that would have been potentially puddling back up through from the plastic sheet. Okay. Her eyes are, what do we call that? Periwinkle or something? So it's definitely more of a blue side of things. And I think it's living in this world here. So I think I just need the two colors here. I don't think I need to go all the way up to here. It's a small space. So let's do the V322 and the V340. Ta-da! And the lightest color first. You can always see, you can always do it and then change my mind and make it darker. A lot of the colors as well, if you really didn't like a color, you can let it dry. So I say let it evaporate first. And then if you work it enough on top with another color, eventually you will push the original color back through. And then you will mostly just have your new color. Reds are a little trickier to push back, but it can be done. Let's see. Now I do think it needs to be bluer. Right. So here's an example where I'm gonna just go over the top with blue. And I think I'm gonna go for B220. I'm not gonna get a pure B220 because it has got the purple underneath, but then that should be exactly what I want. So B220. There we go. That's about right. And if I take this darker one back in, just on the tops here for my shadow, I think we're in a good spot there. We have a darker gray ear. I don't want to miss that. So do let's do that. We're going to go there. We're going to go there. And voila. I'm going to go back to our purples from here to do the bow. So V060, V250, V330. Getting my duck lines in first. Just going to deepen up. So I lost a little bit of saturation doing that blend, so I'm just putting it back in. Ta-da! And I got another ear at the back. Haha, you thought I didn't see you. I see you. Easy fix. And then, let me pause for a minute. Okay, I'm gonna do my eyeshadow. Here. And because we can see the inner eye bit here, I do have the pink out, so we'll do that in the pink. I need to get some skin on this one, but I'm gonna go slightly different. Yeah, I don't want to cheat and make it out of this skin combo. I want to go for a more, just a different skin combo completely. Because I want more of this kind of world. So I think I'm going to do the 220, 240, 370. Let me grab that. And this is while I'm still figuring out whether I'm going to do the pink in the hair or how I'm going to do it, and also what I'm going to do with these beads. So again, I'm going to do the whole skin with the light shade first to saturate my paper. We are nearly there though. I thought this was going to be 2 coloring sittings for me, but I've actually just sat down and not moved. I started with a drink. I had my drink, just apple juice, but I didn't get up again. So, you know, right, it's my darker shade. Let's get all of these shadows in. The piercings are so cool. Just everything really. I know I'm biased. I can't say I'm not affiliated with the designer of this stamp because just in case you missed it at the start, this is a collaboration with my now young adult teenager who I've been suggesting strongly for a while that they take their digital artwork and start making some coloring digis, because I really wanted to color their artwork in. And bless them, you know, it's tough to be that age. And I dragged them out of their home country twice now. So I'm really pleased that they are loving art and being creative. And they don't really know much else of where the future is going to take them. So this is their first time um, wanting to work with me on something officially. And so I'm very proud of them. I know what they've been through the last few years, so this is really cool. Wow, we are getting there. Um, we got another little earring up here, so let's pop that in. And then I can make these pearls. I just need a really fine brush nib. And I'm kind of like doing a half circle. This is ridiculously tiny. Half circle like that. And then instead of leaving the highlight white, let's take that super light. Let's do the CG2 to color the rest in. And then when I put the white highlight on, it'll be good. Right, okay. The hair. I think it's too late in the stage to bring in a different color family completely. However, let me do the gray shading. And then I will take this very light pink, the RV030. And I will do some flicks on those tips. And if I'm thinking, oh, it's not bright enough, then I can just do the R10 on the tips of those. And voila. And I can soften that by going back in with that first pink. And then I can take this super duper duper lightest gray and even flick out from that light pink. And ta-da! Okay. Is everything colored? Yes. All right. Here's what we're going to do. Tidy up. Just kidding. That's for tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Posca. And this is my white in 1MR. That's the little metal, tiny fine nib. We're going to put the shades and the highlights in. So when you do eyes, you want to try and make them the same. On both. Same here. Like so. And even though she's already kind of white pupils, whoop, I'm going to do that anyway. And she has a little highlight on her lip, like that. We got a little boop boop on the nose. And a little highlights on the metal jewelries. Here. Boop, boop. And this writing. I don't know. I'll have to ask what that is, but I don't know. It's lettering. Want to make this even shinier. Boop, 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 boop. Across there. What are we thinking? This should be shiny. This could be resin. Ta-da. Out all at the pearls. Same top corner where the light is on each. Maybe the bow is shiny. And I think, did we do it? I think we've done it. Okay. One moment, please. And newsflash, I'm joined by the author of this creation. Here we go, darling. Look, I finished colouring. Isn't it lovely? Just kidding. You ready?
Yes.
Ta-da! What do you think?
They're really cool. I like them.
Yeah, you drew those. I try to stick to your color scheme as best as I could. Um, but yeah, I had fun.
I like it.
So does that mean I'm going to get some more to color? Because I've colored this one now. Couple of questions. Is this Willow or is it Lily, our other cat that also looked like this?
They might have been inspiration.
Okay. All right. What happened to the bear? Is he okay?
Um, no, he died.
Oh no, that's awful. Um, and what's the writing?
Who knows?
Is it just like art script?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, amazing artist Ivan, for this wonderful opportunity. Um, yeah, I will pop a link down below so that you can also get this line art and support my amazing child, adult child, big child, the my amazing protege. All right, happy coloring. Goodbye.